Hey everyone, I'll be talking about depression. Depression is one thing that's common for everyone on a daily basis in very short snippets. We have situations that happen to us that we momentarily have thoughts that are mostly fleeting. So, what happens is we'll have a situation or an occurrence that will have a small thought that's like, some type of negative situation that happens, but it's very quick, and we don't typically let it affect us for very long at all. It may happen to where we will have a thought, and it sometimes will stick with us for a day or so, maybe a week. But this is not something that is long lasting enough to be clinically uh, diagnosed, or it's not clinically relevant to the point that you would go and be diagnosed as clinically depressed. It is significant enough because it has happened to you. So don't misunderstand that it's not relevant to you. So typically, when this happens, though, and you as an individual will experience one or more symptoms because of it. So, what I'll discuss today are some of those symptoms, treatments for those, what you might expect to experience. Some of those, of course, you might feel sad, or sometimes you'll hear the word blue. You'll feel blue, or you even might feel anxious because of it. So, this is a mood disorder. When when you do actually get diagnosed with this, possibly major depressive disorder, if it lasts for a particular period of time. So that is one of the diagnoses that an individual may become diagnosed with, depending on the length of time. If it persists, the feeling of pessimism or hopelessness. So this is over a period of time, of course, but also this is a state of mind, um, something that people may not particularly think of as being a marker for depression is talking slowly. You also can move slowly physically. That doesn't mean if you see somebody moving slowly that, oh, they're depressed. It's a reference point is what is typically normal for that individual. There's also factors in that, even if the person is moving slowly, and you're like, oh, that's not normal for somebody. Could be on medication, somebody could have something physically going on, they could be on another medication. There's always something that you have to think about, put all the pieces together. So that's why you don't just assume things about others if you're seeing somebody else, which is, of course, why you also hope that somebody doesn't assume something about you either. This is a really big one, fatigue. Typically, when you have depression, you're physically going to be fatigued, because it affects your sleep. Most of the time, people have something is going to be affected with their sleep. They're going to sleep more, and sometimes people sleep less. So it just depends on how depression affects you in that regard. Also, with your eating habits, most people most people overeat, but also sometimes people will undereat. So it's again strictly how this affects you. Trouble with sitting, and we're talking about being restless. So not necessarily physically, it's painful to sit. It's because you're fidgety, you're restless, you have this different type of energy. You want to be doing something. You could have physical pain, so body aches, headaches. Something different about depression is you have so many different things that are going on for you. So you could have headaches. That's something that can kind of go along with that. there's always the case of possible inflammation in your body, because your body is in a really weird state. It's not a normal state. So your body is really interesting, and it's designed to let you know that something's not right. So that's where depression is in play. But of course, you also have to think about being evaluated by a medical provider. So always be on the fence of, okay, is this something physical or mental health related? So always be uh, evaluated by your medical provider, and then most likely they will be able to determine, okay, we've physically ruled out something medical, so this is possibly on the mental health or behavioral health side. Um, um, Potentially for a gender related issue. This could be if you are male or female, it could be something related to your gender, something that you could address that way. Also, with depression, depending on the severity, if it's more severe, then you could be looking at suicidal or homicidal thoughts. And if that's the case, then you would be suggested to go to the emergency room immediately, and then they can instruct you on how to proceed from there. That will always be your safest option. If you're trying to help someone in that case, that's going to be your safest option. Go to the emergency room. They can help you the quickest. There's always the suicide hotline option. Oversleeping, we talked about that. Oversleeping or not getting enough sleep, that can cause such an issue for people. So if you're not getting enough sleep or if you're getting too much sleep, that's one concern with depression. So if you yourself, as watching this video, are trying to look at different ways to deal with this and kind of discerning, okay, some of these things that Dr. McNemar is talking about, I'm really going through. So I'm kind of checking off all these marks. That's a big thing. Other than feeling blue, having appetite or sleep issues, feeling down, your loss of interest with things, um, where you normally would have interest in activities that now you're not. So that's a big indication. As we talked about, feeling hopeless or not worthy, you're having guilty feelings. And this is, as a general rule, having guilty feelings about a lot of different things. So that kind of is a general way of looking at things. So with these symptoms, you can break them down into about four groups. So your emotions, we're talking about feelings of sadness, anxiety, guilt, your mood swings, feelings of helplessness, and irritability. So those are going to be some more of like the emotions. Your thoughts, those are when you feel criticized by others. Impaired memory. Sometimes depression can really interrupt your way of thinking or cogitation. Um, if you're indecisive, if you can't make up your mind on things that maybe you would normally be able to, that can be an issue for you. If you're really confused on things, all of this is usually based off of the norm for you. That's kind of your baseline. If you do have thoughts of death or suicide, that's kind of in the realm of thoughts. Your behavior, again, what is your normal behavior? So if you don't normally cry a lot, and then now you find yourself crying more often than not, again, socially isolating. So you're pulling back from people. You don't enjoy people now. When you're very social. That can be an indication. If you start neglecting your responsibilities when normally you're like, I have my list made, and I've been able to check everything off. Well, if you're depressed, and you start finding yourself not completing these tasks, then that could be a really big indication, because depression, especially if it's become severe enough, it has created dysfunction in your life. So if the dysfunction is that bad, then it has stopped you from functioning normally. Again, physically, if your behavior is affected to this point, then you're moving slowly. Being agitated or not being able to be settled, that's of course you're physically affected your behavior. So also physical, this is more like chronic fatigue, lack of energy, sleeping too much, sleeping too little, also, which of course can affect your weight, coupled with your loss of motivation, which sometimes that can go hand in hand because of weight gain, eating more, and sometimes people like to push aside things and avoid. So when they do that, they may often even revert to substance use or alcohol usage. And sometimes we have aches and pains that we really can't explain. So this can be a very big issue. All of this together, sometimes just more than we can handle. If any of these have affected you to the point to where you feel like you need help with that, then you can always reach out for help to your local mental health providers, or your medical providers, which I do recommend being evaluated by them, because that's going to be your best option. If you do have questions, you can always reach me through my email or my social media. So I appreciate you for watching.